Hello and welcome everybody to our fourth MMM event. Tonight I'm going to be the MC and give our usual MC Daniel a break for a little bit. So let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Francesca. I'm from Italy. I'm half Italian, half American, and I currently live in Austria with my husband, and I am part of the MMM team. So to officially start the event, I would like to invite Patrizia Olivero-Keschbaumeier from the Southern European BFD to offer a prayer for us.
Let's join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Parents, dear true parents, we are here from all over Europe and many other even parts of this world. Tonight, opening up this MMM session, and we are so deeply grateful that we can invite you. We can invite you among many brothers and sisters, blessed couple, blessed central couple that they've been trying to live for you and for your sake, to resemble true parents, to resemble your love in everyday life. We are so grateful that in this specific day, this MMM, 28th of May, 2020, we have Dr. Balcomb and Fumiko Balcomb that are our guest and our speaker. And we are soon going to listen to their experience, their personal experience with our beloved true parents. We are really honored to receive them, and we want to ask your blessing upon this precious evening. We invite you, and we want you to be our special guest together with all of us. We pray all these things with a pure heart, trying to be totally centered on you. In my name and in the name of all those blessed central couples. Adieu.
Adieu.
Adieu. And thank you, Patrizia and Franz. So now a little bit about MMM, since many of you might have not have participated before, and this might be your first time on MMM. Make the Most of Marriage is a European and Middle Eastern BFD initiative that aims to create a thriving community of fulfilled, blessed couples. We have monthly events at the end of the month, usually, like today, that consist of a first part with an inspirational marriage by a guest speaker, and a second part in which our host divides us into discussion groups, and we reflect together over the message that we have received and answer some questions that the staff has prepared so that we can get to know each other better. And our goal is that through these discussions and these events, blessed couples can find other blessed couples to become friends with, even though they might live far from each other. But to act as support and really create this community of fulfilled blessed couples, and especially for those couples who are not so lucky and cannot live near a community, for example. So who is behind this initiative? We have Orlande, who is responsible for the European and Middle Eastern BFD. Then we have Abigail, who usually does our behind the scene work. If you want to say hi, Abigail.
Hello, hi, welcome.
Hello. Good evening. Then we have our usual MC, Daniel Lindström.
Hello.
Then we have Patrizia Keschbaumeier. We have Andy, my husband, who is the host for tonight.
Hello, everyone.
Behind here. And I see that Orlande is here now. If you want to say hi, Orlande.
Oh, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight. Hi.
Hello, Orlande. Good evening. And then we have me, of course. So finally, we come to the first part of our event, which is the message from our speakers. Please, if you have any questions for the speakers during the talk, use the chat, write them in the chat, and we'll try to have a short Q&A session behind the talk, after the talk, or after we come back from discussion groups, so that the flow is not interrupted. So to introduce tonight's speakers. Tonight we're very happy to have Dr. Michael and Mrs. Fumiko Balcomb, who are the regional chair couple for Europe and the Middle East, and also now serve as the national directors of the Family Federation in the UK. Dr. Michael Balcomb is a graduate of the Unification Theological Seminary in New York And Mike and Fumiko were blessed in marriage by true parents in the 6,000 couples blessing in 1982. They have 5 children, 2 girls and 3 boys, who now live in the United States, while Michael and Fumiko are now based in London. Let's welcome Dr. Michael and Mrs. Fumiko Balcomb.
Thank you very much, Francesca, and good evening from London. We're very happy to see everybody, see many old friends and new friends as well. And well, we were going to start by introducing ourselves, but that's already been done. But I'll just tell you a little bit more about myself. I was born in Nigeria in West Africa, so you could say I'm an African American, perhaps. And I moved back to Britain when I was 10, after the Civil War broke out in Nigeria. And after I finished high school, I went to the United States in a gap year before starting university. And in that gap year, I traveled, and in my travels, a few hours after I arrived in San Francisco, California, I met the movement. That was 1976. So don't do the math, means I'm not so young anymore. And I lived and worked in America for 3 years until I was invited to leave by the Immigration and Nationalization Service, and came back to Europe and was here for 12 years. And then we returned to the United States, where we lived for 25 years, just coming back just under 3 years ago. Fumiko's from Japan, of course, and she came to Europe in 1981 as a missionary. And well, it was the first time that she had a chance to meet true fathers. So our story of what we learned about marriage from true parents, of course, begins when we were first met each other. And I'm going to invite Fumiko to tell that part of the story.
Okay. Can you move?
Oh, I'm being pushed out here so that she has the screen.
I'm comfortable. Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to see couples together. And I truly wish I could visit each one of you to listen to you. How was your blessed life? And the other day, the Sunday, when I was watching screen, watching everybody's picture how you are, I really suddenly felt a true mother's heart. I felt came to my my mind and heart. She really want to visit each one of the family and the couple, and I'm sure she want to see you're happy. And so I think as parents, you want children to be happy, and especially if you have blessed couples, happy cases, true parents, and our heavenly parents want to see. And our case, anyway, that's why I think to be happy, to have a happy marriage is our duty. Our case, we matched by father, and actually he did pick my husband for me. He picked me first, and before I was truly worried about to watching brothers around me, because just in case if he become my husband, it's such a humanistic kind of worry came to my mind. But father told me that I am your father, and I find most best possible match for you. Actually, he told everybody, but I thought that he was talking to me. And I want to just read a few sentences about what father's matching was. I have matched many people. Taking responsibility for other people's lives is a serious matter. When I look at the people, I can identify what talent they have and what type of person they are. The woman is fated to be a widow. The man is fated to die young. I even know this sort of things. When I am doing this, I am physically on earth, but I switch into spiritual high alert and extend my antenna. I enter a spiritual state in which I can see people's ancestors from a high vantage point. When I'm in this state of mind, there are no mistakes in the choices I make. However, the matching candidates do not always listen to me. One time I had a match with a young man 13 times. Why should I help him get married if he does not like the women I suggest? The point is that I do everything I can. It is because it is better for him if I match him than if he does it on his own. For the sake of giving the marriage blessing, now that I am here on earth, I have been offering complete devotion and have established all the necessary conditions. So we are ladies, in order to pick the make match one by one, how much Father poured some devotion and prayer. And yeah, but this time we are many of us, our generation matched directly by Father, but some matched by parents or pastors. But I believe this value is the same because Father gave us authority to find the matching couple. Today's my husband is very smart and capable, but not only that, he's very loving and caring. But how I started was actually he was such a rude person. And it's such an extreme character. When he's rude, so rude, so insensitive. And I was hurt so many times. And before start family life together, sometimes we just meet time to time. And after come back to home, the center, the next day I couldn't get out from bed because it's such a shocking to realize what kind of person I got, what kind of person Father gave me. And because I was hurt so many times, but I don't know what happened over the years by every parent's grace, or maybe because of 5 children, because of, by each other, or because of mission. Somehow he changed bit by bit. Because I myself was such an immature girl, and I think both of us really so immature couple in the begin with. So really struggled a lot. But in case one of you or some of you are struggling as couple, as wife and husband, do not worry, even though you are 60s, because I must say it's never too late, because everybody has their own way of indemnity cost and also blessing. And yeah, 2 things we are proud of ourselves that we never fought even once in front of children. That's behind argue time to time. But somehow without really discussing, I really didn't want to fight with my husband in front of children. So we really just kept. One day I remember one of the kids came back home and said, why you don't fight as mom and dad? Whenever I visit a friend's house, they always fight. So it means even other kids, front of other kids, parents fighting. So yeah, what was I going to say? One more thing. Yeah, and I want to say that either wife or husband, do not do anything that your spouse don't want you to do. This is, I want to tell everybody. for your sake of your happy marriage. And I think home care is essential. They're doing together, and we're really grateful that they were kind of uniting and helping each other. Actually, my husband helping a lot, and I truly grateful for our two parents and the heavenly parents. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thank you. I'm back. I didn't run away while you were hearing all those secrets of the how we began. And you know, you may think, well, now we know the truth, so it looks like you haven't learned anything from two parents about marriage and family. But in fact, I did, and maybe that's how I was able to change a little bit over the years. And actually, one of the first lessons was the very day after we were matched. You know, when we were matched, Father asked my wife, you know, what nationality husband do you want? And she told him English or German, because she thought those are the languages I can possibly learn. And Father said, okay, come with me. This was at Camberg. And he walked down the aisle, and he said, who's an English gentleman? And well, I knew I was English. I wasn't sure about being a gentleman, but she looked cute. So I put my hand up, sort of, you know, pick me, pick me. And very quickly we were matched to each other, and we couldn't really talk to each other except through an interpreter. But as Fumiko said already, we had heard Father say that I will pick you the best person. And the next day, just before the Holy Wine, in my recollection, Father was talking to the match couples now, and suddenly, extraordinarily, he took off his jacket and he lay down on the stage. Now, if you've been to Camberg, you know the stage is not very big. And Father laid on the stage. He said, while lying down, I want to give some advice to the men here. He said, you know, while you're lying in bed, you know, most likely your wife is going to take up 90% of the space. And let me give you a tip. And he kind of rolled over onto his side right at the very edge of the stage and kind of hunched up. And he said, be like me, be like a shrimp in front of a whale, and let your wife have all the space she will need. This will serve you in good stead. And of course, I realized afterwards, Father wasn't just talking about bed space, although bed space is, of course, still very important. But I think he was talking more about the kind of attitude a successful husband will have. A successful husband will actually make sure that his wife has all the space that she needs, the freedom that she needs, even if that means kind of putting yourself into a small and uncomfortable position. Now, you might ask, okay, you know, is that just Father being theoretical here? But I don't think so. I think that when Father gave that kind of advice, he's talking from direct personal experience, that, you know, by his own experience with True Mother, whether it's in bed or in the bedroom or wherever it is, you will do better if you put yourself second and your spouse first. And while I was saying that, Fumiko pumped her fist and said, yes, and she's taking notes now to hold me to it later on after we finish. And I saw Father put Mother first many, many times. And one that really sticks in my memory, we were at East Garden, and in the 90s, mostly, True Mother was the main speaker among true parents, and she would often go traveling around the world. And that was the days before Zoom calls and YouTube and internet. And so Father would do his best to follow the speech. Sometimes it would just be on a telephone. And I remember towards the end, there was some kind of video capacity, but it was very rudimentary. But anyway, after each speech, you know, Father and Mother would talk on the phone, and there would be a cake cutting. I think many of you participated in that. It was a little bit corny in a way. And I had the chance to go and listen with True Father on many occasions when Mother was far away. But this particular night, Mother was flying home. And so I think from somewhere like Chicago, let's say, about 2 hours from New York. And so Father listened to the speech as normal, and afterwards there were songs and cake, and Father spoke to us members a little bit. And then he said, well, I've got to go out now and get ready for True Mother. And I remember thinking to myself, Father, you don't need to get ready yet. You know, her plane doesn't even land for another 40 minutes. And even then, it's going to take half an hour to get here from the airport. You can relax, you can rest, and then, you know, the call from the car, they'll tell you when she's 5 minutes away. But Father didn't do that at all. No, he quickly changed. He put on a raincoat and he got an umbrella, and he stood out in the front porch, almost in the rain. It was a rainy night, waiting for True Mother. You know, maybe an hour waiting outside, standing there. And I felt, Father, why are you doing that? And then I realized Father really wanted to convey with his whole heart how important True Mother was to him. I mean, he wanted to show it to us, and he wanted to show it to Mother, because, you know, there's a difference between going out at the very last minute to meet someone. Maybe you could even be late and they arrive before you think. That's very embarrassing. But Father wanted to be out there a full hour beforehand, because he wanted to prepare his heart and mind so that when Mother came, she would feel his attendance and his love, even as she was coming up the driveway and out of the house. And Father also commented as well, you know, I know all of you want to see Mother as well, but I want to be first. And if you're all waiting out there for an hour and I come at the last minute and push my way to the front of the crowd so that I'm in front, that's not good character. So, you know, Father, I think, made a special effort to show us how he felt and how he thought about True Mother. It was really a very beautiful thing to see. And another piece of advice that Father gave is about fighting. So you might think, gosh, true parents giving advice about fighting with your spouse? Surely true parents would never do that. Anyway, this was another evening at East Garden. And I can't remember the exact occasion, but Father and Mother were both there. And I think it might have been a Chuseok, you know, a Thanksgiving festival. It was a very happy festival. And actually, I remember now we had a food fight. There was a holy table, and Father started picking fruit off the holy table and throwing it back into the audience. And that was okay, but then he was picking up these glass bottles of McCall and throwing those, and everyone... Anyway, it was a rowdy evening, and everything was happy, and there were lots of songs. And eventually, Father sort of kind of walked down the aisle, and suddenly he stopped in front of one particular couple, I think American and Filipino, if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, they were kind of minding their own business, and they didn't realize for a while that Father had stopped right there in front of them. And gradually, I think somebody must have poked them in the ribs. You know, Father's right there. Look up, look up. And so they looked up, and there was Father directly. And Father said, "You two fight all the time, don't you?" And actually, they were notorious for being a fighting couple. But of course, they always behaved when they came to East Garden and to Hundake. They didn't fight in front of True Father. But somehow Father could see the situation very clearly. And he said to this American brother, he said, "Look, I want to give you some advice." He said, "When you fight with your wife, you will lose every time." And the brother sort of looked. He said, "Yes, I'll tell you why you'll lose every time. First of all, your wife is much stronger than you. I can see that. You're a bit weak and indecisive, and she is like a tank. So when you try to fight with her, you are definitely bound to lose every time." And, you know, people were laughing, and the brother said, yeah, I guess you're right. But Father said, "No, I'm not finished yet. I want to tell you something more." He said, "One day you might win. And when you win, you will really lose. Then I'm telling you, you will have lost not just for an hour or a night. You may lose for a month or 6 months. So be careful. If you think you're going to win, be careful what you ask for. And you will lose. In other words, you'll lose if you lose, and you'll lose if you win." And I always thought that's very good advice for any couple. And one of the reasons I think why we haven't had so many arguments is because I really try to practice that. Sometimes Fumiko says to me after she accuses me of some horrendous mistake, why don't you fight back? Why don't you protest? But I've learned my lesson. I know that if I win, I will lose. So that's a little secret there. And then I noticed that after Father had given this advice, he kind of glanced behind him and he noticed that True Mother had left the room. And he said, look, I'm not just telling you this, because I have some theory. This is my experience. He said, you think I've never fought with True Mother? I have. And I'm telling you, I've lost every single time, even when I've won. So brothers on the call, take it from True Father himself. You will lose. And if you win, you will lose even more. And Fumiko is now clapping. That's why we're not showing you her. Here she is, laughing and clapping. And, I remember Father often being very, very sensitive to how True Mother was thinking, particularly when Father started to talk really about very intimate things. But also, he often noticed when couples were struggling with their intimacy. And, people struggle with intimacy, with having sex enough and often enough, quite often. And it's not unusual even among blessed couples, especially when, when we're working hard or the mission is intense, or maybe, you actually work in different places. And one time, Father was talking about this topic, and he noticed the American church president sitting in front of him. Not me. This was before I was the president. And he said to him, I won't mention his name, he said, I see there's a problem here. Your wife doesn't really want you to visit her in the nighttime, does she? When was the last time you had sex anyway? And, of course, Father's asking a direct question, so the president, quite embarrassed, kind of had to give his answer. And it wasn't like yesterday or last week. It was like, well, Father, it was a few months ago. Few months ago, said Father. What kind of man are you? What kind of blessed couple are you? Do you think I blessed you so you could live like a monk? And, he kind of, Father went on for that moment. And he said, but anyway, let me tell you what the problem is. The problem isn't what you do in the nighttime. The problem is what you're doing in the daytime. It's because you're not respecting and trusting her. You're not treating her as she wants to be treated in the daytime. That's why in the nighttime, she wants to be somewhere else. So, I mentioned that because, first of all, Father taught us a lot about sex, particularly the brothers. He was very candid and very free. But at the same time, he was also very respectful to Mother. And he gave us a lot of advice about the kind of attitude we should have if we wanted to be successful in the long term in our marriage. And of course, the fundamental thing is to respect each other and to love each other. So now it's my turn to share with you something Mother taught me or told me about her relationship with True Father. And, Mother has mentioned many times before that one of her biggest struggles when she was young was she was told by spiritualists about her future marriage. You can read about this, by the way, in the coming autobiography, Mother of Peace. So more than once or twice, some spiritualist would come to Mother and her mother, Tamanim, when Mother was only 11 or 12, and say, I had a vision of the kind of spouse that your daughter's going to have. And what is that vision? Well, she's going to marry someone who's at least 20 or 25 years older than herself. Well, no young woman wants to hear that, right? You're going to marry someone who's as old as your father or your uncle. Already that's unhappy news. But that wasn't all. And this is Mother telling me directly. Then they would say, and by the way, this man that you're going to marry, he will either be the greatest saint history has ever known, or he's going to be one of the worst criminals that ever walked the face of the earth, a real monster of a man or a saint. And there's really no way to tell. The vision didn't go that far. So, have a nice day and have a happy marriage. And then the spiritualist would leave and mother would be left kind of holding the bag. She talked about this to the young people in Vienna a little bit. But gradually she said, I realized from this encounter that it's really up to me. Actually, I will decide whether or not my husband is going to be a great saint or a terrible sinner. That's my responsibility as a wife, as a spouse. I will make him to be a great saint. And she said to me, and I always kept that determination. We had our ups and downs, but I always determined by my choice will determine whether my husband is a saint or a sinner. Now you might think, oh, mother, that's a bit extreme talking about the Messiah himself, but I don't think so. And I think True Mother also would give the same advice to all the sisters on the call. So I already told the brothers on the call about how not to fight and lose. So for the sisters, I would say, you are the ones who will determine whether your husband is a victor or a failure. Nobody else. He won't decide that for himself. You will. That's True Mother's message to me. So actually, when you think about it, husband and wife have such an enormous responsibility to make each other victorious. We're not perfect. Even if we're born sinless, and I certainly wasn't, you're still not perfect. You still have to grow, you have to mature, you have to learn how to love each other. And if your goal is to make yourself perfect, you will fail. But if your goal is to make your partner perfect and happy and a winner, then there's something to work with. So this was True Mother's determination in her marriage. I will make father a winner. I will make him happy. I will make him victorious. I will never give him a time to complain. And I'm running out of time a little bit, but I'll share with you one more thing. One time we were waiting to go somewhere. Well, maybe two more things. So anyway, one thing from father. Father one day told us, we'd had breakfast, I think. We're sitting at the table. And father had a big smile on his face and he said, by the way, do you know how I became perfect? And we're thinking, no, father, we don't know how you became perfect. Weren't you born perfect? Or, was it something to do with career and the ancestry and you met Jesus? And our father said, no, none of that. He said, I became perfect by living with True Mother. He said, when I was young, I had a terrible temper. He said, I was hot-blooded, I was angry. I was always getting into fights at school. And even when I went to Japan to study, I just couldn't keep out of trouble. I was arrested many times by the police, but part of the time it was my fault because I just couldn't keep my mouth shut. He said, but living with mother taught me to be patient. He said, sometimes we're getting ready to go out and mother will say to me, oh, father, I just need a little bit longer. I need to go to the bathroom. Father said, okay. And then mother would go to the bathroom and 5 or 10 minutes would pass and father would be kind of twitching, anxious to get out there. And then mother would come and say, father, are you ready? Oh, actually, father, I think I need to change. I just need to change my clothes a little bit. So mother would go and change. And then she'd come back after 15 minutes, and then she'd need to go to the bathroom again, father said. By this time, I could feel the blood boiling up my legs, pouring up my chest, almost exploding out of my head. I thought, oh my God. But I controlled myself because I knew if I said even one word, I might regret it for 6 months. So a lesson from father there, men and women too, about the power of patience. And then my final kind of comment, a lesson from True Mother this time. You may not know, or maybe you do know, that True Mother is a pretty good fisherman. Actually, she became something of an expert fisherman. But in the beginning, she really did not like fishing at all. And she never went fishing with father. And of course, partly because she was having children and tuna fishing was very rough. But, she didn't like it. And lots of women don't like fishing. But she changed. She realized to herself, father loves fishing. And he loves me. So probably he would love fishing with me even more than fishing by himself. So she taught herself to love fishing. And not only to love it, not just to go and kind of be there moping around, but to go and to even fish better than Father himself. Now that would really show Father her love and her desire. So, this is a good lesson, I think. If your spouse likes to do something and you don't, you would do well to learn how to love it. And not only to learn how to love it, to learn how to do it even better than they can do it, because that will bring them real, lasting joy. So in this way, I think later on, True Mother became the champion, and Father was so proud of her. Father was so proud of her. She learned how to speak publicly better than Father could speak. She learned how to keep time better than Father could keep. And Father loved her so much because she decided to do what he had to do and to make it her life. And I think this is maybe my last word for now. I have a few stories to share later on, maybe. But this is, what Father and Mother did for each other. They learned to love what each other loved more than what they wanted to do themselves. They learned how to be patient with each other, how to rejoice in each other's victory, how to be kind to each other in the daytime and in the nighttime, and how to share with all of us how to have the same victory. Father knew very well when he matched us and when he matched all of us, we would fight. Sometimes we would have up days, we would have down days, we would have struggles, we would have challenges, if not with each other, then with our children. But they always told us, God has a plan. Mother's told me this so many times about me, about us, about our family. God has a plan for you. God had a plan for you before you were even born, and he will never abandon that plan. So one day, God's plan will be fulfilled and everything will be all right. This was True Mother's watchword in Korea last time. Everything goes well. And even when it doesn't go well, it means it's not over. And everything will go well in the end. I think Mother is a tremendous optimist. She believes to the depth of her soul that God will be victorious, that everything will work out, and all of us will live together in the kingdom of God. So thank you, everybody. Fumiko is now poking my finger, which means it's time to stop secret communication between husband and wife. And we'll pass back to you, Francesca. Any last word, honey? No words. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael and Fumiko. This was amazing. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. It's always so precious for me to hear stories, especially of one-on-one accounts with true parents, because I didn't have the chance to spend so much time in their presence. And yeah, it's so fun, but also deep and interesting and useful to hear these things, to feel more connected and to feel like we can relate to true parents more like people. It's always very interesting. So thank you very much. I received the question actually in private. If you would like to answer it, the question is, how long did it take for you to overcome the language barrier? Since you mentioned that at the beginning there was a barrier.
Well, Fumiko did all the overcoming, really. My Japanese is very weak, but her English is pretty good. It wasn't, yes. But she lived in England. She actually came to England and lived in Glasgow, first of all. If you know the United Kingdom, you can imagine learning English in Scotland is quite a challenge. But she always spoke in English to our children, to my parents. I respect her so enormously. And when we were in Japan most recently, and, with my limited Japanese, it was a chance for me to realize just how much she'd gone through to master living in a foreign country. But almost from, by the time we lived together, which was 4 years after our matching, her English was really, really very good. Thank you, honey.
Thank you. That's very inspiring to hear. I'm in the process of learning my husband's language, and it's still taking some time, even though we're both from Europe. So it's good to hear all Victoria's experiences. So now we're going to, if there are no more questions, split into the discussion rooms. We're going to have 25 minutes long discussion. and then we will meet together for the conclusion. And for those who want to continue talking and have the time, we will reopen the discussion rooms at the end, after we have come together and we have closed with a prayer. Everybody, and welcome back from the discussion groups. I hope that you enjoyed sharing a bit within your groups and hopefully exchanging some stories. It's always nice to see smiley people after the discussions. And remember, if you would like to go back to your groups at the end, after the conclusion, we still will open the groups for 30 more minutes. And in case people in your team have time to stay, you can continue the discussion and sharing stories and getting to know each other. But for now, I would like to ask you if you have any reflection that you want to share, or if you have any questions for our speakers, to write it in the chat. That now should properly work. Anybody from the team wants to share? Daniel, do you have any reflection on how the discussion was in your team?
Yeah, we had a really good discussion. Actually, time went too fast, to be honest. It feels like we were halfway through. Maybe some of us will have time to stay. But yeah, no, it's very good discussion, and I think the Balcombs opened the floor for some very interesting discussion about. Actually, there was a question about subject object, and because obviously there's a classic about man being subject and woman being object. But I think one of the conclusions was that obviously the subject is the one that gives first. So I think that tied into a little bit about putting the woman first, or giving the space, or I don't know, letting her win. And I think that was one of the summaries. I mean, it's hard to say very quickly everything that was talked about, but we were discussing that as one of the topics. And yeah, anyway, it was nice group of people. Just we all had a chance to share a little bit about our couples and things like that. So yeah.
Thank you.
No
yeah, many good points. Our couple is still very, very inexperienced, let's say, but yeah, we'll keep them at heart, and we have some experience in the fighting, especially. We don't have kids, so we have time to practice before we have kids, to try and maybe not show our fights to other people. But many good points. Oh, lovely, people writing in the chat to each other. Amazing. I love to see people connecting. That is what we're trying to do. So if there are no other questions, or if there are no other reflections, Patrizia, did you want to share something?
I mean, our group was really nice. Do you hear me? Okay. Yeah, it was really nice, I have to say. And especially because also Dr. Balcomb was still with us, so we could listen something a little bit more. And also, I was really happy to see my Italian sister. There was an Italian sister there. She lives in Germany. So this opportunity to feel people, heart, so close, and the group was nice, and also was other people that I know, and it's a long time I don't see them. So seeing them, listening to them, it was like having reconnecting, like an artistic connection, a bigger artistic connection. So, and the time was really fast, like Daniel said, yeah, too fast, it's flying, and not everyone could conclude or could say everything, but it was precious what we shared. Yeah, my point is that I really feel a family. So I thank my group and MMM.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry if the time always seems so short when you start having good discussions. We wish we could provide more time, but people have busy schedules, and in order to make everybody find the time, we have to keep it a certain time limit. So we hope that if you have more time, you choose to continue the discussions later, or otherwise come back next month and hopefully have some more good discussions. And over the times, then you feel like you have more time then to talk with each other. So a couple of last things I want to say before, again, passing the mic to Uncle Michael and Auntie Fumiko Balcomb. I would like to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And I hope that you will come back next month for the next speaker's message and for our next discussions. Please look forward to receiving our feedback form in your emails and also the registration, the recording from today, because I feel like in such a short amount of time, so much content was shared. And if you feel like revisiting it or maybe sharing with brothers and sisters who were not able to be here, then you will find that in the emails, and we will post it also on our Facebook page. So please let us know how we did in the feedback form, and let us know what you want from MMM, because we're here to work for you. And obviously a special thank you to our speakers who are so busy but made time to prepare for tonight and to be here with us. So I would really like to thank them from the participants, but also from the organizational team. We really appreciate it. And I would like to invite now Dr. Michael and Mrs. Fumiko to share with us some final words and remarks and offer the closing prayer. Are you here, Dr. Michael?
Yeah, we're here.
There we go.
I truly feel I wish I could visit all of you, and really pray that everybody's successful blessing. That's it.
One of my favorite sayings is that we're part of God's winning team. You know, True Mother is a big fan of teamwork, and she really doesn't like solo flyers or people who try to do everything by themselves. And of course, that's even more true in marriage than in anything else. But also, you know, we are one family. So we have to help each other out. I know that we all have struggles. Maybe we have struggles with our children, our grandchildren, ourselves. It's normal. It's part of life. But we can help each other so much. You know, Father always told us that God does 95% and we do 5%, right? That's what the principle says. But actually, how does God do the 95%? Usually through other people. That's how he can do it. And the same way, I can be part of God's 95% to somebody else. So we have to really love and care for each other, and then we definitely will be God's winning team. So thank you very much for the invitation this evening.
Thank you. And now if Andy would like to share True Parents picture, I invite the speakers to offer the closing prayer and officially close our meeting.
Okay, please join prayer. Our loving Heavenly Parents, we are truly grateful to see your children as we received a blessing from True Parents. We're truly grateful because we understand the value and the significance of the blessing through our True Parents' incredible hard work and devotion, and because of love. And we are truly proud of your team as God's winning team. And yes, each one of the couple has different challenges, but we know that asking, you're always with us and always working for us to become a much better individual and a couple, to really come closer to True Parents. We are so grateful to our True Parents, Father in heaven, and our True Mother standing so strong in front of us. And as together, we really want to go forward. And as like said, that we truly need help each other. We offer everything to you, and I want to ask your blessing upon all this participant and the couple and the family. And this I report in the name, together with all the brothers and sisters here, Mike and Fumiko Balcomb blessed family, as you.
Ajuru.
Ajuru. And thank you once again to the speakers and to all of you for coming. You are the reason why we organize these things. And well, I would like to remind you, yes, then that the rooms will be open for another 25 minutes if you'd like to join, if you have the time. But if people in your team cannot and don't have the time, please don't take offense. It's probably a busy schedule, busy evening. And from the MMM team and from my behalf, I would like to wish you a good evening and a good night. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.